I'm a big reader. I am not good at making split decisions. I'm very good on mic, doing a bunch of different takes, but in my real life, not performing, I am a researcher. I like to have all of my pieces in front of me and then choose what I need.
No rain.
Guys, welcome to the Naren Agarwal show. Today is going to be an exciting episode and someone I'm going to learn a lot from. Here's the reason why. We got a professional voiceover artist based out of Chicago, Illinois with us. Bethany Arrington has a B.F.A, a Bachelor in Fine Arts in Theater Performance from University of Chicago in Illinois. And she has also had a history in acting and theater performance and now has turned into a professional voiceover artist. Welcome to the show, Bethany.
Thank you. Thank you for
Bethany,
having me.
Thank you for being here. I'm excited to discover communication, voiceover acting, and your journey in today's podcast that we have. So, quickly getting into it. What is voiceover acting and voiceover artistry? What is it?
So this is a good question. Basically, it's just acting on a microphone. It's nothing very exciting, but voice acting has a lot of different subsections. So a lot of people know voice acting. There are people that just do video games or just do animation. That's kind of what, when you think, oh my gosh, voice actors, you're thinking of the people that do the cartoons that you know and love, or the RPG, role play video games that you play. But actually, there's a whole nother side. There's also the commercial side. So the people that you hear on the radio or hear at the very end of a commercial, kind of that tagline, McDonald's, I'm loving it. That kind of, those little tags, those are voiceover actors. And then you also have a whole other avenue of corporate explainer videos, whiteboard explainer videos, how-to videos. When you go online and you don't know how to use your vacuum and you go to the vacuum site, you go to like Dyson, and there's a little the animatics and stuff, and they're like, this is how you plug in your Dyson vacuum. That's a voiceover actor. And then there's also e-learning. There's like so many different things, not just commercial and animation and video
Wow,
games.
especially with the way industry is becoming and there's the amount of content coming out. I can only imagine voiceover acting becoming a thing bigger and bigger with animations and animated movies, and not even movies, commercials, and everybody putting social media posts out there. Wow, that is really interesting. So let's go back into your journey of how you decided to become an actor. You went to school for theater performance, and then you are now a voiceover actor. So tell us a little bit about your journey and how did you end up here?
Yeah. So I started acting professionally when I was 14. So my first professional gig, I was a street child in an opera called Carmen with the Indianapolis Opera. I'm from Carmel, Indiana. And I did like church plays and school plays and stuff like that. But I knew from a very young age, I was like, I'm going to be an actor. I want to be an actor. And I always thought I wanted to be a theater actor. I loved live theater. That's definitely like my passion. And that's my home in a lot of ways. So I went to theater school and I went to the University of Illinois at Chicago. I studied specifically under a pretty well-known actor, Yasen Peyankov. You might not know his name off the top of your head, but you would recognize him. He's the villain in Harold and Kumar's Christmas.
Okay.
Yeah. And he's the scary Russian guy on Madam Secretary. You guys can IMDb him. But I went to study specifically under him because he is an ensemble member at a very famous theater called Steppenwolf here in the US. And that theater is based in Chicago, but a lot of their productions go to Broadway, and they're kind of known as being the actors' theater. They cultivate these brilliant productions, but they also cultivate incredible acting prowess. And so I knew I want to train in Chicago. I want to learn under this person. And I did, and he's still my mentor. But
Wow.
yeah, it was a very specific journey for me, but since then it hasn't been at all, because I came out of theater school. I actually was booking more commercial modeling gigs, like for catalogs. I'm 5'3". I am not tall, I am not a model, but for catalogs and like
Yeah.
basic stuff, I'm your girl, the girl next
Yeah.
door. So I was doing more of that work, and like industrial videos, like for companies, like their in-house training stuff, and some like smaller commercials. And I was doing my theater work, but not getting paid that much because theater doesn't really pay very well.
Mm.
And so I was still, I still had a day job. I was nannying part-time. And I
That's tough.
started,
You had a full-time theater job and then you had a day job. You were nannying.
yeah,
Wow, that's
yeah.
that's like to make sure you have enough to sustain and like do well because theater doesn't pay so much.
Yes, and it
Wow.
was a grind. It was a grind. And
How many hours were you working?
oh, it was like an easy 60, 70 hour week. I mean, like
Hmm.
between, and like not being paid, like between all the prep for theater that you're not paid, memorizing your lines, doing your scene work, all this, all the kind of prep that goes into acting that's outside the rehearsal room, you're not paid for that. You do it because you love it.
Oh
You do
my
it because it's your
God.
craft.
Yeah.
Um, but I was getting really, you can ask my fiance. I was getting really burnt out really fast. And I wasn't happy, and I couldn't really pinpoint it. And I knew it had to do a little bit with like control. I felt like being an actor, you have very little control of your career,
Hmm.
because everybody's telling you, you can audition for this, you can't audition for that, you are getting the job, you're not getting the job, we're not telling you why, you know. And so I found myself in this position of like wanting some control. And so I started doing some research, and I realized that voice acting could be a viable avenue for me. And everybody's like, well, voice acting, don't you have to have this announcer voice? It's like great, a really deep, boomy voice. That's what the people in a world, everybody
Yeah.
knows, that's like the father of voiceover. Like everybody knows that sound. But what I was finding is actually the industry had shifted. It had shifted from the announcer to your friend, conversational. Hi, buy our product. Come to this place. We have this amazing service for you. It has to sound like I know and trust you in a lot of ways. And
That's
yeah,
insane.
yeah, and with the teaching and the training stuff, it's kind of the same. It's maybe a more professional sound, but it's still relatable. And I found myself really being drawn to that. The problem was I wasn't confident in doing it full time. I was still
Hmm.
clinging
Hmm.
on to my day job. I was nannying less, but I was still clinging to it. And then the pandemic happened.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And like I had, kind of told you prior to being on with you, the pandemic
Sure.
happened, and it's forced everyone to do things differently.
To maneuver, yeah. The
Yeah.
courses have changed and you gotta find out a new way.
Yeah. And so I spent a week in bed at the beginning of the pandemic, because it was like I had just had 3 television auditions for big shows, and I was like, "This is it." Like, this I'm about to, like, have my first network, like, debut. I was so excited, and then it was like, "Oh, never mind." I had just auditioned actually for Fargo, believe it or not, and was like, I'm gonna be on Netflix. I was like, this is it. Like it's happening. I'm finally like gonna get this bigger, these bigger jobs and reach a wider audience. And then it was like, oh, pandemic happened. Never mind. Everything's on hold. They're finishing the season without these extra characters, or they're not having guest stars on for kind of, Chicago PD Fire and Med are big shows here. Obviously they film in Chicago, they're the police dramas and stuff like that. But it was like, okay, all that's on hold. I had 2 productions that I had already, the theater productions that I had booked and was ready to do. Cause like as a theater actor, you kind of build out your season. You go, okay, I'm in this show in the fall and this show in the spring and this show in the summer kind of
You
thing.
really got to plan your whole year ahead. Yeah.
You do, you really do, because we don't need to get into like all the specifics, but there are audition seasons. So like there's pilot season in January, and like in Chicago, a lot of the theater auditions are in the fall, and that will go for the rest of the year or at the very end of the summer, and you kind of audition and rotate. But I had my year planned out. I was ready. I also was supposed to get married this year. So I had, worked these gigs around this, huge event that's my wedding. And then it was like, nope, not all. I mean, I wasn't fired from any of my theater gigs, but they're like, we are on a hold. And I was like, okay. And my nannying gig, they're like, we can't have you in our house. You know what I mean? Like everybody has to quarantine.
Oh my God, that's a sudden stop of everything that you were doing.
It was everything. I was genuinely like, I don't know what to do. And I was grieving along with the rest of the world, this like terrible thing. But also selfishly, I was like, what is happening to my career? It's slowly grinding to a halt. And I'm working so hard and I'm so tired and I just want to be good at acting. Like it was just it was the perfect storm, but it was perfect in a lot of ways because it forced me to take a look at what was right. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. And I had doing the same things, grinding, working this day job because I thought I had to, because I wasn't confident that I could make ends meet with my acting. And I was like, oh, you don't have any of that. What are you going to do? And I had my microphone. I had my laptop. I had researched voiceover. I'd even done some auditions. But then it was like, Bethany, this is the time. This is the time when you put all your energy into it because one, you don't have a choice. There's nothing else for you to do. And two, you deserve, you owe yourself this kind of success. And it took a long time for me to kind of come to terms with that. And, thank goodness, again, right, having the right people in your life. My parents are so supportive of me being an artist. And my fiance is this amazing human that just, I think he might be my biggest fan. My mom would be horrified hearing that, but he is my biggest fan. So he was like, let's do this. And so we have an extra closet. And by the way, for anybody getting into voiceovers, voiceover work, closets are the best place to record in your home. Keep the clothes in, they absorb the sound. But I basically converted our extra closet. You can see I have my foam and stuff up. I have a desk in here, and I got to work. And I mean, it's like sounds so simple. No, there was like a gajillion steps, but I got to work and it's working. I'm making more money than I have.
You're making more money than you ever have.
Yes.
Being associated with a professional theater, doing your day job. Okay. And what about your level of happiness? Like, what is that like?
I mean, working for yourself is awesome, right? Like being an entrepreneur is awesome. I love, for me, I love waking up. I do my little yoga, I drink my tea, and then I maybe put on different pants, but sometimes I just stay in my yoga gear and I come into my studio. And it's nice and self-contained. During this pandemic, this is a luxury. I know this is a privilege that I can just, move into my little closet and not leave my house. So, yeah, it's been great. It's been really, really great. And I'm lucky.
Wow, it's such a cool life lesson too. Sometimes like I was reading this quote one time that it's sometimes it's great that our plans don't work out, so that there's other plans that might be better that work out for us. And in some way, like the story sounds like you had a plan of going into the being on Netflix, etc. but then it didn't work out. And in the end, you're so much happier and you're making more money in what you're doing. And happiness, I think that's even the bigger key, right? Because money you would probably make today or tomorrow, that would come. But happiness, um, it shows on your face. You know, you've been smiling while you've been talking about this journey. And maybe at the time it was tough, but wow, that is an awesome story.
Thanks.
Bethany, it's it's very tough, you know, when you're faced with such a situation to be resourceful, because we think that there's nothing that can be done, and you've come to this halt, and what can you do, right? But it's like you have to go to the lab and reinvent what you want to do, and then doing it and being resourceful, right? You didn't have anything, so you made a studio out of a closet. You started marketing yourself on the internet, and before we got on air, you showed that how you, instead of a windscreen, you had a sock on your mic, um, so that you know that makes the sound better. How was that possible? Like, what are the things that helped you in going through that process? Because I think there's so much value all of us can gain out of that.
Yeah. I think I'm a big reader. I am not good at making split decisions. I'm very good on mic doing a bunch of different takes, but in my real life, not performing, I am a researcher. I like to have all of my pieces in front of me and then choose what I need. In this process, for me, it was a lot of basic Google for a while. It was figuring out what was going to work for me. And I think we all, no matter what business you're in, I don't want to say everyone, but personalities like myself really want someone to be like, this is how you do it. And it'll be perfect if you do it this way. There is no one size fits all, right? We're all all individuals, all unique, and we all have different processes, whether you're in marketing or voiceover or working a desk job, right? To do your best it's going to look different than what Joe over there is doing. So for me, it was researching and then coming to terms with the fact that I am going to have to take what works for me and leave what doesn't. And another big thing for me was finding someone I respected and their process seemed like it might work for me closely enough, or I at least know what they're doing is working. And so I'm going to try to copy what I can, make it easier, right? Don't reinvent the wheel.
Correct.
So I do have a voiceover coach. His name is David H. Lawrence the 17th. He's out in LA. People might know him. He was the scary villain on Heroes, that television show. He's been again, IMBD him. He's like really cool. And you would recognize his voice. His voice is very amazing. It's just a really amazing voice. But he is a teacher. He is not just a talent, he is a teacher. He loves the technology behind voiceover too, so he can work the tech with you and kind of help you figure that out. And a big thing for me was following him on all his social media, reading his blog, gleaning as much as I could. And then frankly, when I was ready, coughing up a little money and studying under him, taking what I was making and reinvesting in myself. And that was a huge step for me. That's really hard to do, I think, sometimes.
That is amazing. So you figured out the pieces of the puzzles, and then you found a coach, you found a mentor, and um, that is amazing that you say that. We oftentimes think that we can do it all by ourselves, but there is
Yes.
also so much time you could save. You could save weeks by investing in somebody and learning from somebody who's done it. I really see the value in that. Wow. Voiceover acting. So what are some things that you have to do to take care of your voice? Like, can you party? Can you drink alcohol? What are some things? Because I know tea tasters can't drink alcohol and stuff. So what are some technicalities that you have to take care of to make sure you can do your job well?
Yeah. So the big thing, yes, I do. One of the hardest things transitioning for me was actually drinking less alcohol. Like, I'm not going to lie to you. Theater people love to party. And I love to party. Not as much anymore. But no, for me, again, everybody's voice is different. When I was in theater school, I had voice class twice a week, if not 3 times a week, for 4 years. So I learned my instrument very well. I'm also a trained singer, so I have that background too. I use my voice well. But that doesn't overuse is overuse, right? So the big thing is remaining hydrated. Hydrate all the time. I'm constantly drinking water. I'm constantly having to pee. But it's, you win some, you lose some. Yes, do it. So hydrating, I love throat coat, which is a type of tea. Yeah, it's called throat coat. And I don't really know what's in it, but it's very soothing. I'm sure you can just drink lemon tea and it'll be fine, but I really like it. And then everybody talks about mouth noise on mic. So, those noises, even just swallowing, your mic will sometimes pick up that noise,
Yeah.
So mouth noise is hard because, right, when you're speaking, your saliva glands are trying to moisten everything so you can move your tongue, so you can articulate better. The problem with that is when you're on mic, you'll hear like those noises sometimes. And everybody has different tricks for that. A lot of actors, voice actors, swear by green apples. They'll eat a green apple right before, specifically a green one, right before they get on mic. I don't know the science behind this, by the way. Right before they get on mic, you eat a green apple, and then you don't have as much mouth noise. For me, actually, if I'm hearing a lot of that noise, it's telling me that I'm salivating a lot. Either I haven't hydrated well enough, so take a drink of water, take a break. And sometimes it's just from fatigue. And I know that, okay, I need to take a break, stand up, walk around, get a, regroup. My voice I have pretty bad allergies. So you'll hear I have like a natural kind of rasp. That's just part of my voice. It gets deeper the later it gets. With more use. So my voice is freshest in the morning. A lot of people say like, yep, record your big pieces in the morning. But I know plenty of people who are like, that's not the case. I need at least an hour to warm up my voice. I have to do this, that, the other. Okay. So for me, if I want to sound more gravelly later at night, I'll record to get kind of that more hoarse sound. But yeah, hydrating, knowing your instrument, which takes time, drinking tea, and yeah, limiting my alcohol. So wine makes me, it's like very intimate, but I guess it's cool to know. But wine makes me really mucusy the next morning. I'll like feel it kind of. I'm pretty sure it's the tannins. Hard alcohol is okay, but again, you can't overindulge because hard alcohol in general dehydrates your body. So then you're having to work against it to rehydrate the next morning, and when you get on mic, that's not very good. So, yeah.
Wow. That is something that an average person wouldn't think of, right? But as a voiceover actor, you have to really think about these things like mouth noise. I've never even heard of that, like,
Yeah.
it's awesome, or like ensuring to be hydrated. These are some really cool insider things that I got to learn. So Bethany, when doing voiceover acting, right, you get a project, and this might be a general question, but different tonalities, different emotions inspire different reactions. So, what are some thought patterns or frameworks that you have in mind? That hey, this type of voice will help with this kind of emotion. This type of voice will help with this kind of emotion. There must be a kind of framework that you work out of, and I'd be curious to learn a little more about what that mental process is.
Yeah. So, right, we have all different kinds of voiceovers that we do that you can do in being a voice actor. Most of my auditions are for commercial work. With that being said, I think I touched on this earlier, right? We've moved away from that big announcery voice to just being conversational. So for me, I always start from a neutral place. What a neutral place is my regular speaking voice. This is my regular speaking voice. I might be articulating a little bit more because we're on a podcast. But then again, I'm talking to somebody I like, so maybe it sounds a little casual. Someone who's a friend, so it sounds a little more casual. I have a tendency to start from my neutral place, which is more casual. I'm just talking to a friend. And actually, my voice coach and I have talked about this. Picturing who you're talking to, this audience of one. It is not, I'm talking to everyone that's ever going to hear this commercial. It's, I am, let's say, for example, like a cleaning solution. I do a lot of voice spots for cleaning stuff. I am picturing that mom at home, frustrated in her kitchen. Sometimes I even like picture the full outfit, what she looks like, but I am talking to this one person. How would I talk to them? Not as like through the speaker, like coming out of her phone or radio. Like if I creepily was in her kitchen while she's frustrated. But if like how would I speak to her and how would I try to connect? Because, and I'm sure you know this as an entrepreneur, sales is actually about connecting with who you're trying to sell to. It's sales is not take this product, it'll make your life better.
Yeah,
Sales
exactly.
is I want to fix your problem. Help me fix your problem. Tell me what it is and I will find the solution. I actually already have the solution because I have this product or this service, right? Like,
Yeah.
and so I think of it like that, and I try not to think about selling as much as connecting to that audience of one. So that's my basic framework, right? And then moving from there, when you get a piece of copy, and copy is just the term for the text of whatever the commercial is, or really, I mean, this actually goes into everything, because like even with my explainer videos, like explaining how something works, I just did a explainer video for a new piece of software that is basically virtual reality for surgeons, for people learning to be surgeons, and it's a VR piece of software. Yeah, really cool, right?
Pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Super.
even with that, I'm explaining how this, this virtual reality thing works. I am still at the same time, who is my audience? This one person I really want to tell about this. This professor who's going, how am I going to teach wannabe doctors to be surgeons during a pandemic? We can't just like pop into the surgery room right now. Oh my gosh, here's this virtual reality tool that can totally help, and it comes with masks, whatever it is. So that is what I do. I try to connect with the person. I stay in this neutral spot. But then usually in the copy, sorry, moving back, in the copy, there will be like some descriptive words sometimes, be like sassy mom or woman, 30s. Okay. Thank you. I don't look at them very closely, if I'm totally honest with you. Actually,
Right.
again, my voice coach, David, and I have talked about how the people that write the copy might have an idea of what they want. 9 times out of 10, they don't actually. They don't know. They don't know. They think they have an idea of what they think it should be. But when I come to the table, it's going to be Bethany. It's going to be Bethany. And either they're going to buy into that or they're not. And that's okay. That's not about me. It's more about them than it's about me. Um, and so sometimes if I see like, oh, sassy, that maybe gives me a clue like, a little more personality here. I might put that gravel on a little bit. It's not just the mom cleaning in her kitchen and needing help. It's now that mom who's frustrated, and so you, even just those little changes can kind of round out, make something a little bit fuller. Another trick that's very basic, and a lot of people in the industry know this, but for your listeners who are not in the industry, is saying everything with a smile. When you smile, you actually lift your soft palate, the top of your mouth. So it stays neutral. And when you smile, it's like, ooh. And so what happens is you actually create a different mouth shape, and it brightens your sound. I mean, think about it. When you say, hey, and when you say, hey, That's not just tone. It's truly your mouth changing. So for me, I do a lot of copy with a smile because who doesn't love smiling? Who doesn't want to? It makes you naturally more friendly.
Exactly, and you can connect better with whoever's listening too,
Hmm.
because they imagine that the person speaking to them is smiling. Dude, that is that is amazing. I've never even thought about speaking to one person. I've never thought that, because I think most people, when they think about recording something, they think millions and thousands and hundreds of people are going to hear this and see this. But what you said is so powerful. When you think about that one person that is the ideal person that this message is made for,
Hmm.
oh my God, that is really utilizing the power of visualization. When you said you think of their clothes, that is really utilizing the power of visualization in real life to get something done and be effective at it. I mean, no wonder you're doing so well. These strategies sound awesome.
Thank you.
Wow. To transition into a place where you do not have a fixed paycheck every month, is that
Mm,
stressful? Because that's a whole different mindset, when you speak about being self-employed or being an entrepreneur.
yeah.
That is the biggest shift, the mental framework shift. So what is that journey like, and how do you keep yourself motivated when maybe you don't have as many projects? Um,
Hmm.
how do you think of that?
So I have had to do a lot of work in this area. Um, Everybody has a very unique and specific relationship with money. It goes back to how we were raised, maybe the different things we've experienced in our life, and our experience in receiving a paycheck. People who hate their job and get a paycheck have a very different relationship with money than people who love their job and get a paycheck, right? We have these emotional reactions. Money isn't actually money is truly just a concept, right? We got tired of bartering. We got tired of bringing sheep everywhere. So we're like, listen, better idea, paper or coins. Get it?
Yeah.
Don't need to bring my sheep, don't need to sell my daughter kind of stuff, Um, let's let's stop taking sheep everywhere. Here's your money.
Correct.
Um, I don't know why I chose sheep. Anyway, anyways, so money is actually this concept, and we as humans give it the power that it has. Because in reality, it is just a bartering tool for goods and services. So I've had to read a lot about this because I am a very anxious person naturally. So, not having, and one of the reasons I clung to my day job was the consistent paycheck. I was like, if I don't have that, I won't eat. I was positive I won't make rent. There have been times when I've been like, how am I going to make rent? So I started getting really, really attached to the consistent paycheck. The problem is, listen, I loved nannying. I had a really awesome family in the end. Like right before this, I love them. I'm still in contact with them. I had an awesome situation, but it wasn't doing what I'm most passionate about. So it truly was just a job. I still loved them. I still loved those kids. I loved the family, but I didn't love them the way I love my art. I love my art in a different way. It's real up there, close to the fiance. Um and so I got really attached to this consistent paycheck. And the moment the pandemic happened, right, everything's in upheaval. Nobody's making money in reality. It made me go, okay, I can either keep sitting here and freaking out, or I can do something. I'm a doer because when I freak out, I normally do things. And when I freak out, I go for a run. When I freak out, I organize my kitchen, whatever it is. But I was like, okay, I'm going to devote myself to this. And the money isn't going to come right away. I know that. I know that. But again, I give power to what that money is. I do need to eat, I do need to make rent, but I also have systems in place if something really bad is going to happen. I have been kind of on a financial journey for the past year and a half because in prepping for marriage with my fiance, Alex, we decided we needed to figure out how we were going to be on the same page about money, because he has a different relationship with money than I do. And so we started having these really candid conversations about money, about what he was making, about what I was making. It was terrifying until I realized these are literally just numbers. I'm getting freaked out about a system in place that helps me get things and give things. That's what money is. But other than that, this is not something to be afraid of. This isn't something to be afraid of. Take a breath. And the big shift for me happened when I read a book called You Are a Badass at Making Money by Jen Sincero. She's like a life coach and a writer. I think she's based on the West Coast of the US. And she's known for, it was a New York Times bestseller for You Are a Badass. So this is like the follow-up book. And she talks about living and working from a place of abundance. This idea, and that's kind of my new word, if I'm totally honest. And I've gone total woohoo on it, that I call it being a little woohoo. I've made it into a mantra. It's something I say. I live in a universe of abundance because I do. I truly believe that we all do. Some of us face, yes, some of us face, trust me, I am a middle-class white woman. I definitely live in a place of abundance. Let's be honest. I have a lot of privilege. I live in the US. I live in a big city. There's all sorts of things. At the same time, I truly believe that each of us are living in a space right now, even amidst the pandemic, that is a place of abundance, because I truly believe we've been given this gift, which is our lives, and we are either going to take and give what we can, or we're going to stagnate. And I know that, again, little woohooey, but moving from that place of abundance and saying, okay, I am going to make rent. I am going to pay off this, whatever the credit card, whatever it is. It's not going to look like a consistent paycheck, and I'm going to have to trust myself. I'm going to trust that I work hard. I am good at what I do. These are things I have to tell myself every day. I work hard. I'm good at what I do. I live in a universe of abundance. So I will make this money. I will find a way to make this money, even if it doesn't look like it. Now, when you're an entrepreneur and you start, it's so scary because you're not sure if you're good at it. You're not sure if you're good. Do you work hard? Who knows? You're like, you question everything. And do you live in a universe of abundance? You do. You do. You live in this space. And so kind of shifting for that again, shifting into that space was the biggest change for me. And after that point, I mean, honestly, working with a coach, making smart financial decisions, not spending when I didn't need to spend, but saying, no, I'm going to put this money into the coach. I know what I'm doing. I do have to get up and audition every day. That doesn't stop. I do send marketing emails, I have to do those things. The things that people are like, oh, no, you do those. You do those because, again, you live in a universe of abundance, but you got to bring that abundance to you,
Exactly.
So,
and to do what you love, sometimes you got to do things that you don't love, right? So to be able to have a pet dog and enjoy that experience of living with somebody, you also clean the shit, right?
yeah.
You got to do things. Yeah, exactly. So do anything that you love. You got to do things that you don't love, and that's part of the game. That's part of with anything, and that's awesome. I totally relate to you. I did a course recently, some months back, called Money EQ, Money Emotional Quotient, and it was talking about the relationship with money. It's not. We focus so much in the modern world about money IQ, the information that you need to earn money, this tactic, that tactic, this system, invest in this thing, that thing, that thing. But a lot of us, we got that emotional relationship with money messed up, and that's the reason more money, less money, we don't feel satisfied because we come out of this place of scarcity, as you said, and it's never enough. But when you start operating out of abundance, well, you might get more externally, but the biggest thing that happens is you start feeling fulfilled from within. you start having a better life experience from within. And so I haven't read that book, but I totally exactly see what you're saying when you say coming from abundance. That's really powerful that you were able to make that shift. Um, your journey and your story is really a proof of how working upon oneself is what creates different results outside. We often think that um, doing this, doing that is what creates results, but we forget that working upon ourselves creates those results. And it's so awesome to hear that you worked upon yourself. You hired a coach, you started reading these books, you started shifting the mental framework that you had, and you got these results that you got. Too good.
Thanks.
Wow, wow. Um, Bethany, final question I have for you is being part of the industry where you're doing voiceover acting and acting, there's always room for constant improvement, right? Um,
Mhm.
you go out on stage, every time you come back, there's feedback.
Yeah.
So, um, how does it get challenging? Does it get tough? Because every time you're on stage, every time you're performing, there's an opportunity for feedback. It's not like you're in a sales job where after a month you get feedback, right? It's constant. It's every time. It's every day.
Mhm.
So how do you handle that feedback? What do you
Yeah.
make out of it, and how do you actually put it into application?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you said that you don't you said like in a sales job you get it every, monthly. It's interesting doing voice work, I get less feedback
Hmm.
than when I'm in a theater production and I have a director in the room with me, right? I'm in kind of a vacuum. I'm by myself. But when working with clients, and we all have to work, whatever your job is, you've got clients. I know you do.
Yeah.
Even if it's just your kid, even if you're just taking care of your kids, they're your clients in a lot of ways. They've got feedback. Um, this is something I'm really passionate about because I was an athlete growing up. And something that I naturally seem to understand is coaching. I like being coached. I like the coach and player relationship, and I've gotten really good at kind of taking that and putting it into acting and putting it into my art, because a lot of the artists, we're sensitive. We take things personally because it is personal. This is our art. This is what we're doing. But if you're an athlete, you can't take it personally because you have the game to play, you have the goal to score, you have something to do, you know. So kind of melding that, knowing that I'm a sensitive person, but also I'm an athlete and I like getting feedback, has really helped me take the notes and implement. So what happens when you get feedback, right? From your boss, from a client? This is something that happens less for me, but I just yesterday I had a client who asked to be on the phone during my recording session. That's called a directed session. It's something I do all the time. Sometimes we do Skype, sometimes we do Zoom. I have a piece of software called Source Connect that actually I can hook up to really any studio in the world. Very cool. Um, and sometimes through Source Connect. But this client was on the phone and I would do a read and then he would have something to say. Okay. So when I'm hearing that, I know I'm just trying to help him get to the goal of whatever this script is. Again, I keep my audience of one in mind, but they have their audience that they're thinking about too. So it's kind of finding that middle ground. But I want to get back into like actually taking a note and what normally happens, because this is something I've trained myself not to do. So when you get feedback, right? You will have first a physical response. And sometimes it's subtle, but sometimes it's really intense. So your heart rate's going to go up because adrenaline is pumping through. Sometimes you start sweating, right? We all get sweaty palms when you're called into your boss's office, right? Or even when your friend is like, "Hey, I need to talk to you about something." You get that text and you're like, "Oh
Yeah.
God, did I do something?" Maybe that's just me. I don't know. And your mind starts racing. Your mind is like brrr, thinking of all the things it could be, thinking of all the ways you could have improved, especially if it's your boss. And then what's also happening up here with your mind is you're moving into a space of fight, flight, or freeze, right? This is very basic. It's a survival thing, right? When we were threatened as like cave persons, these were our three responses, right? Fighting it out, getting the heck out of there, or staying still. Don't move. They'll leave me alone, you know? And actually there's a fourth one that I just learned and I really like it. It's called fawn, like fawning over something. So if your response is fawn, sometimes you make jokes or you start talking a lot because you're trying to get out of yourself. So you're like, if I just make this a little easier to, handle, that's something that my fiance does. He will make jokes when he's uncomfortable and it's really annoying to me because I'm like, this is serious. And he's like, but don't, but that's a fawn response. Very interesting, right?
Yeah.
So this is a survival thing. Your brain starts doing that. Your brain also starts getting a little defensive. It'll sometimes be like, oh, we're about to get something's about to happen, so I better protect myself. And you know what? Actually, I didn't do anything wrong, or actually, I have all these different options, so I don't even care what you say. All these different things. Your brain is just like, oh my God, we need to protect. We need to protect. We need to protect. So you're having a physical reaction, you're having an emotional and mental reaction. What needs to happen is to, again, come back to that neutral space, right? I've talked about my neutral place for getting on mic. In order to do that, the big thing that needs to happen is you need to breathe. You need to just take a breath. That's the first thing. Got to take a breath. It's good for you. If you're having a really strong physical reaction, sometimes for me personally, it sounds really dumb, but I'll just shake out my extremities, like particularly my hands and my feet, getting a little blood going. Hey, I'm moving, I'm alive, I'm okay. You're actually sending those signals to your body like, you're fine. Look, shake it out. We're good. Okay. Adrenaline dissipate. We don't need to be here. That's fine. And then mentally, I think the first thing I forgot like my favorite thing that happens for me when sometimes I get a note, especially if I disagree with it, my inner critic will come out. We all have one. And she comes out and she's like, see, Bethany, you're really bad at this. You're not actually a good actor and you should die. No, I'm kidding. And you should go home, and she is like really mean. The first thing I do after the breath, after the inner critic is out and my mind is racing, right? I acknowledge my inner critic. Hey, girl, not so nice to see you, but I see you've shown up. I know you're trying to help. No, thank you. So it's acknowledgement and it's bye. Because your inner critic has it's not helping you. It's not helping you. We don't need her here. Because, again, we work hard. We're good at what we do. We live in a universe of abundance. So inner critic doesn't really have a space here. But acknowledge, when you're like really sad and someone's like, don't be sad. And you're like, I feel worse.
Yeah.
If you ignore your inner critic, she's just going to get louder, right? So you need to acknowledge it and then say bye.
So true.
Acknowledge it, say bye. And then the next step is being mindful. And mindfulness is something that I really struggle with. And it's just about being present. And again, that's slowing down your thoughts, going, I am mindful of my body and where I'm at, but I'm also mindful that someone is trying to communicate with me, right? When we get feedback, a lot of the times we go, me. It's all about me. My body's doing this. My brain's doing this. Actually, what needs to be happening is no, me. Me is fine. We're fine. Someone's communicating with me. I am mindful of myself, but I am mindful of them and what they're trying to give me, even if I disagree with it, because they're trying to communicate. And the most basic thing we can do with other humans is give them the respect of communicating with us. Give them the respect to communicate, right? That's what we all want to be heard. I think that's our greatest desire, actually, is to be understood. It's not to like have a lot of money or even everybody's like, it's to be loved. And I'm like, well, being loved is being understood. You want to feel understood. I don't need my clients to love me. They just need to understand me. I'll feel loved then, you know? So then acknowledging, so I am mindful, I am receiving information, and then for me, it's reframing. Whatever piece I've been given, if I agree with it, great, take it and run. If I disagree with it, all right, now we have a little bit of a harder process here. What can I take from it? Sometimes there is truly nothing, and that's okay. That's okay. We just, again, we respect the communication that went on, but again, goodbye, we're good. And I also try to think about what the goal is out of the conversation. So when I'm on the phone with a client, if they're saying, Bethany, I'm just feeling like it is like muddy and we're not hearing all the words or something. And I know for a fact, I'm like, I am speaking well because that's what I do for a living. What do they mean by muddy? What do they mean by muddy? Maybe they actually need me to slow down. They need me to slow down because they're not hearing it. Because I have the copy in front of me. I've heard myself say this 100 times already. I need to slow down. Okay, that's fine. Let's try it. Let's try slowing down. See what they say. Oh, Bethany, that was so much better. Okay, it wasn't muddy. I wasn't mispronouncing things. They just needed me to slow down. There we go. Right? That's like a really kind of basic example. And yes, it takes some higher level thinking to like move outside that. And again, you have to acknowledge all the things that are happening and then do that. But if you practice this even in your like interpersonal relationships where the stakes maybe aren't as high, you get better at doing it in professional settings, and you will be noticed because your clients, your boss will go, wow, I gave Bethany a note. I gave Bethany this adjustment. I gave Bethany this new goal. Or actually, I had a really tough conversation with Bethany and look at what she's doing now. Like, she took it and ran with it. This is great. Or even if maybe you don't implement it perfectly, which happens all the time for me. Just the other day, I had a client, I could not say their product name. That's the most important thing. For some reason, it is the most important thing as a voice actor is saying the name right. And for some reason, I had been saying it wrong in my head and I just couldn't get out of myself. But they could hear that I was trying. I ended up saying, can you give me a moment? Just give me 1 second. I ended up I put them on mute. I got up. I went outside of my office. I walked around my apartment. My fiance was like, what are you doing? I walked around my apartment and just like relaxed everything, was like, okay. And he's like, are you okay? You having a stroke? No. Okay. And I walked back in, got on mic, figured it out. Sometimes we just need a break. And they were like, oh my God, there we go. And I was like, I'm laughing to myself because I'm like, I literally just walked around my apartment. It wasn't, I'm sure they thought I went and got lozenges or throat spray and was like, no, just needed to take a walk, Yeah.
A brain break, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, that was so long and convoluted, but it is something I'm so passionate about because it connects both what's happening to us physically, what's happening to us emotionally, what's happening to us mentally. And I think that's something, again, it all has to do with mindfulness, but I think it's something that is really, really hard in our world right now because everything is so fast paced, but the pandemic has forced us to slow down. And because we're communicating more virtually than ever, I think it gives us an opportunity to take a break and to check in with ourselves, right? You're on the phone with your mom is a lot different than being face to face with your mom and she says something that ticks you off, not that I would know from experience. And all of a sudden I can check in with myself better than I ever have been able to. So that's
wow. Wow, I love that. Taking a note. That's what you call it, right? Taking a
Taking a
feedback,
note.
taking a note, taking a note.
Yeah.
That was awesome. I think we took a lot of notes from that journey of you taking a note, because that's really valuable stuff that you just said there. The physical response, the emotional response, and how to respond versus react to a certain situation.
Mm-hmm.
Bethany, this conversation's been amazing. Time flew by.
Oh.
Are there any final things that you would like to say, or any questions that you have for me?
No, I just want to say thank you so much for having me. This was such a fun conversation, and it's really cool to again connect with entrepreneurs, like and another entrepreneur, because it's still a new thing for me and I'm learning too. So I really appreciate your time.
And thanks to you, Bethany, for spending your time and sharing awesome insights with us. I've never really spoken to a voiceover actor, um, and this was awesome. This was
I'm
awesome.
so glad.